I'm Tom Bennet, and it's a pleasure and an honour to meet you all again today for our third Research at Amsterdam. Third year we've managed to come back. Can you please put your hand up if this is your first time? Thank you, hands down. Second time at Research at Amsterdam. Still significant. Thank you, I salute you. Third time. My people. I tried. Thank you so much. You can collect your coffee stamps on the way out. You're now entitled to a free hug from Pedro, so you'll see you there. Sorry, Pedro. It's extraordinary. Every year we seem to need to add another 100 seats at the back, and we still don't have enough. I can only apologise to those of you practising Zumba at the back to keep fit. It's quite a thing. We now have, I believe, approximately 450 people coming out today on a Saturday, which tells me a great deal. It tells me that teachers love to be in schools and can't get enough of it. And if they could, they would come in on a Sunday also. So that's something we'll think about for next year. Anyway, my name is Tom Bennet. I founded ResearchEd in 2013. It seems a long, long time ago. I remember reading a piece of research some time ago where they had spoken to every British Secretary of State for Education since the war, all the ones that were still alive. And they asked them several questions. They said, how did you pick your policy decisions? Yeah? You know, how did you make your platform strategy decisions? And I don't know if this will surprise you or not, but almost all of them put as their top priority, the main thing that influenced the reason why they picked their policy for education was their own school background, their own experience of school. A case study of one. The second biggest influence, all the ministers said, that influenced their policy decisions was their friends' school experiences. They were quite open about this. I think by this point they had nothing to lose. And as you go on further and further down the list, the things that influence them most to make the decisions are things that you might actually start to expect. Things like, for example, budgetary concerns. Could they afford it? Could they get money from the Treasury and so on? And other things like, well, policy and platform issues. Did this fit in with what the rest of the government was already doing? Did this fit in with the manifesto? There were also more pressing, more practical, more immediate concerns. There was also the question, for example, of the policy churn. I don't know what it's like in your own territories, but in the UK, the average tenure of the Secretary of State for Education is 18 months. 18 months to implement, execute, and then assess the effectiveness of your policy platform decisions. Now, I don't know about you, but things do not move that quickly in education. I think the heartbeat of education is perhaps 5 or 10 years for something to happen and then to see a significant and robust effect. So you can understand that when a new minister comes in, the temptation to not pursue the policies and platforms of the previous minister is very high, because who wants somebody else to take the credit? This is a big problem, and this brings us to evidence. Because for them, the concept of utilising educational research or having an evidence-informed approach came last. It came bottom of the priorities for deciding how to choose policy. Several years ago, I was at a conference where Tony Blair, the ex-Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, was speaking. And I put my hand up and waved long enough to get picked for a question. And I asked Tony Blair, I said, what part did evidence and research play in your decisions? Because Tony Blair made extensive reforms of the education system in the UK. He looked at me and said, we didn't really use a lot of it because there wasn't any. There wasn't any. I nearly choked on the spot. There's a lot of evidence out there. But I think that unpicks a greater problem about the educational ecosystem, about how evidence escapes the laboratories and the petri dishes of academia and institutions and how it eventually reaches the classroom and the school. Because after all, everything we do in education only matters if it influences what happens to the children at the end of the day, the end users, one might say. I must say, can I just say, I apologise for speaking in English. I come from a barbarian nation, as evidenced by our recent voting patterns. Not all of us, I assure you, will all be smuggling ourselves out through the Channel Tunnel, so we can still enjoy your croissants and pastries and Heineken, salt and licorice and all these lovely things we just don't know. Anyway, when I speak to teachers and ask them, how do you make decisions in your classroom? It's a question we don't ask ourselves very often. Why are you doing things the way you're doing it? How do you know what you're doing is the best or the most efficient or the most useful way of teaching children, guiding children, supporting children, nurturing children, however you want to describe it? And very frequently, and this is more anecdotally now, so I now bring down the level of evidence here. And when I speak to teachers, they frequently say, this may chime with your experience, they frequently say, my trainer, the one book I read when I was training, my own experiences at school too. I mean, how often do these voices echo in our own minds? Can you put your hand up if you are yourself a teacher? Do you teach currently? Okay. I would say. You know, we all know these voices from our own past, the things we say which echo long dead teachers. And I often think that the evidence we have to inform our decisions is frequently below what we should perhaps be reaching for, and why I started research ed. Because I thought there was a blockage in the pipe, or several blockages. I thought that we were, as a profession, as an ecosystem, insufficiently informed when it came to the decisions we make in the classroom. And this doesn't mean there's a piece of research to solve all of our problems. What this means is that there is evidence out there which we can then, as practitioners, intersect with and use as a reflective, meditative, contemplative vehicle to think about what we should be doing next. The catchphrase of research ed is working out what works. Now, I think that question is far more subtle than it appears. Because I don't just mean which intervention works with everybody. I would like us to ask more questions about when do interventions work, and with whom, and in what circumstances, and to what extent do we know if they work or not. I think certainty is overrated. Even in the natural sciences, nobody reaches for certainty. I think Descartes pretty much killed that one. What we're looking for are probables. We're looking for best bets. And most of all, we're looking to be research informed. We cannot claim to be a profession as educators unless we are evidence informed. It cannot be from the gut. We cannot simply shoot from the hip. Our guts and our hips, that's a lovely picture, our guts and our hips must combine with our heads as well as our hearts in order to come to decisions which are as best informed as we can possibly make them. And then we can call ourselves a profession. And at present we are still, I think, dominated by novelty, by commercial interests, sadly, by unreasonable demands, by our own prejudices and biases. And I think there is enormous scope in education to improve. I think there are low-hanging fruits everywhere in education. If we as a profession can come together, as we are now, and collaborate, discuss and share, argue, challenge one another for the good of the profession and for the ultimate good of our children and therefore, of course, of society. I think it's a very exciting time to be in education. I think it's always an exciting time to be in education. I think this is an amazing time. Social media, I think, the internet, has short-circuited many of the traditional gateways and circuitries of the traditional systems within which we operate. And has given us the opportunity to, as I say, let teacher speak unto teacher. And one of the beautiful things about a day like today is we can communicate instantly, share ideas instantly with people who will argue with us, back and forth, as we should, across the world. I know right now there are people following us in Australia, in the UK, in Canada, and so on, and that's a beautiful thing. It's one of the things that's inspired me most about being part of the research ed community. I've been lucky enough to be part of that. We are a non-profit, perpetually soon to become a charity. Everybody practically volunteers for free. Almost everybody gives up their time for nothing. Volunteers, pepper everything that we do, including the speakers, I might add. All of them give their time for nothing, which is an extraordinary achievement. At the end, we'll do some proper thanks for people like Didactive and so on, our media partners who have helped us with this. But it's an extraordinary effort. And I think education and teaching is one of the kindest, most altruistic professions I've ever seen in my life. As I frequently say, I don't have much to compare it with, because my previous career I used to run in nightclubs in the West End of London in Soho. But everyone in education is much nicer than that, I can assure you. The bar is not high. So, I invite you to have a fantastic day today. I invite you to go to sessions you're not sure about. Go listen to people whom you disagree with. Don't shout at them. Well, just don't shout at me. Ask questions of them. And if you're on Twitter, is anyone on Twitter? Does anyone use social media? I love you. Please tweet this under the hashtag #RedAdam and share your thoughts and your observations and so on. And by that, we multiply the impact that we have. Traditionally, with the research ed events, we tend to trend, which is extraordinary for such a small group of people, which I think is a wonderful thing. And very soon we're going to lots of other countries. We'll be going back to Australia, America, we're going to Sweden and Norway, South Africa. We've got loads of events coming up in the UK. So do check our website out and see if you want to come along to any of them, or possibly even participate. So, our next session starts, I believe, at 10 past 10. Have a fantastic day. I hope to meet you all. Thank you very much.